This is Pastor David Bendett with a burning question that apparently people want to know. And so the question is, should Christians participate in Halloween? Well, of course, this is a loaded question, and it's a question that is a little bit difficult to answer because of the different places that people are at in their lives spiritually. For the Bendett family, we do not celebrate Halloween. We don't push that agenda on others, though I don't think you should. We don't feel like this should be a core doctrinal issue that would potentially push people away. But I do believe it's important, and I believe that this is a great question for me to answer. So our family doesn't celebrate Halloween for a variety of reasons. The first is that I don't want my kids to have anything to do with being scared or afraid or fear. And as you know, 2 Timothy 1:7 says that God hasn't given us a spirit of fear. So why would I subject my children and my family to anything related to fear or being scared? The second thing is that so much of Halloween does have to do with witches and warlocks and ghosts and goblins. And for a lot of people, I know that they don't believe those things are real. But for me as a pastor, I know that they're real. I have dealt with kids that have been influenced by warlocks. I've cast demons out of warlocks and witches. And I know that that is a very real world that's not pretend. It may seem harmless to have your young son or daughter dress up in Paw Patrol or Disney. And you might say, well, we're not dressing them up as witches and warlocks and ghosts and grim reapers and things like that. But I would say that where does it end? So we start out by introducing them to a small amount of fear, whether that's walking up to a particular person's house that has a giant 10-foot skeleton and witches and all kinds of terrifying things that would normally really scare a child, werewolves, Draculas, all those things. We expose them to that. And even though we may be with them, and even though it's just about getting candy, for me, I think the Bible makes it pretty clear that we aren't to have any fellowship with the works of darkness. And that's Ephesians 5:11. It makes it pretty clear that we're to have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness. And to me, I view so much of Halloween as darkness. It encompasses so much of what I, as a Christian and a believer, don't stand for. And the Bible makes it pretty clear that we're not to be a part of that. Another great scripture in the New Testament is Galatians chapter 5. And at the end of Galatians 5, starting around verse 18 or 19, it talks about the works of the flesh, or what I call the fruit of darkness. And in there, there's a lot of things about how we're to live in unity and sexual purity and other things. But in the list of the fruits of darkness or the works of the flesh is the word sorcery. And if you actually study out sorcery, it's the practice of magic and black magic. And you see a lot of that revolved around Halloween time. For me, it's just simply a holiday that is not productive for my children. Aside from the fact that I think most of the candy's poisonous and they shouldn't be eating it, I just feel like exposing my children under my care to anything related to the works of darkness or the demonic is not okay. And we've taught our kids that from a young age. We do other things around Halloween time, whether that's fall festivals. I don't mind my kids dressing up, but they're not going to partake in anything that has to do with witchcraft, anything that has to do with sorcery, anything that has to do with the works of darkness. And again, I don't want my kids exposed to being afraid. I don't think my kids should actually be afraid really of anything. And so we teach our children to really follow the Spirit and to be separate from the ways of the world and to come out. That's the process of sanctification, is that we're being separated from the ways of the world. And I think Halloween is an extremely worldly holiday. Now, do I push that agenda on other Christians that maybe don't see it the way that I do? I don't. But what I do is I set a standard for my own family and we maintain the course. And though I think other Christians should not celebrate Halloween, the church is divided over this topic. We're going to have people at our own church that are going to go celebrate Halloween, probably families that I know and love. So we don't make this a deal breaker doctrinal issue, but we do set a standard for our own family. And personally, I think other Christians should too.